my mom said. I know you paid off the $370,000 mortgage, but we're gifting the house to your sister as a wedding gift. On her big day, I found my photo and my kid's photo at the gate with a sign, "Do not let them in." We turned and left in silence. For hours later, she realized her wedding had ended when we went home. My name is Jack, oldest son, brother to Emily, son to Linda and Mark, husband to Ava, dad to two small tornadoes who think cereal is a food group and police badges are stickers. I'm a patrol officer, 12 years in. Night shifts, double shifts, the kind of hours that carve your face into tired lines. I like things that make sense, a clean report, a working flashlight, a promise kept. The day this started, I was off duty. I just finished laying out my uniform on the chair the way I always do, belt straight, vest folded, body cam charging. The house was quiet because Ava took the kids to the park. I made coffee and sat with the mortgage letter spread on the table, one I kept since the day I paid the final $3,700 transfer. The to-the-penny amount that sealed the total, $370,000 over 8 years. My notes on the back, dates, overtime stubs, extra shifts. The blizzard week I didn't sleep more than 4 hours. The summer I missed every barbecue. My phone lit up. Mom. I put her on speaker and kept stirring my coffee. Jack, she said like she was calling from a stage. I know you paid off the $370,000 mortgage, but we're gifting the house to your sister as a wedding gift. I didn't answer. I already talked to Father Paul, she added. He said generosity keeps a family together. Silence on my side. The spoon kept tapping the mug. The old wall clock scratched out seconds. You're quiet, she said. Don't be dramatic. You don't even need the house. Emily does. She and Tyler are starting out. I said, I live here, Mom. You won't for long. Listen, don't make this ugly. She exhaled, annoyed, like I'd missed a cue. Show up to be happy for your sister. That's all I'm asking. 2 days later, at the church gate, there was a printed sheet with my face from Facebook and 2 little school photos of my kids taped under it. A handwritten sign in black marker, "Do not let them in." The usher glanced at us, then at the paper, then at his shoes. I'm sorry, man. Ava took my hand. I picked up the diaper bag like it weighed nothing. We turned around, walked to the car, and drove home. No horn, no yelling, no scene. For hours later, my mother texted, "Where are you? The photographer needs family shots." I typed nothing. Because 4 hours after we left, she finally understood that the wedding had ended for her when we went home. And that was just the beginning. I didn't stumble into the mortgage. I carried it. When Dad's back gave out and his hours got cut, the family house fell behind. Our place is this tired split level that creaks when winter moves in. I moved back after academy, thinking it'd be 6 months. It became 8 years. Don't be a martyr, my sergeant said when I picked up another overtime slip. Got bills, I said. The bills had names: property tax, roof patch, furnace, mortgage. Emily was in grad school, then finding herself, then trying marketing, then waiting for the right opportunity. My parents said, we all pitch in different ways. Their different way was texting me the due dates. At first, it felt fair. I lived there. I paid rent that happened to be the mortgage. Only my rent wasn't market rate. It was the entire payment. Then the kitchen flooded and the contractor wanted half up front. I used my deferred comp and cut my gym membership. You're such a provider, Mom cooed, like a pat on the head. I kept receipts. I kept screenshots. I kept a spreadsheet labeled house. It had tabs: mortgage, repairs, utilities, extras. Extras was the list that makes people wince. Emily's summer course I co-signed for because she couldn't lose momentum. Dad's dental crown when insurance denied it. Mom's temporary car payment that lasted 15 months because she wanted the trim with the heated wheel. I'll pay you back, she said, signing the title. You know we would if we could. When Emily got engaged to Tyler, a guy who calls every beer a pills, the family chat lit up. Mom renamed it Wedding HQ. The first pinned message was a Pinterest board. The second was a spreadsheet with costs and volunteers. Guess whose name was next to venue deposit? I responded with a thumbs up and a "we'll see." Ava squeezed my knee. We were in our minivan outside the grocery store, kids fighting over a crushed granola bar. She knows my face when I'm doing math in my head. She knows I keep too much inside. At dinner later, Dad cleared his throat like he does to summon authority without backing it up. Your sister is finally getting her start, Jack. Be a good example. What does that mean? He didn't answer. Mom did. It means we need a big gesture. Something that says family stays together. Imagine how special it'll be if Emily and Tyler start in a home, not an apartment. In a home, I said slowly, like this one. She smiled like I'd guessed a riddle. Exactly. Ava put down her fork. This is Jack's house. Mom's smile thinned. It's the family home. Jack just managed it. Managed. Like I handled a group project while everyone else signed the cover page. I pulled up the spreadsheet on my phone. I've paid every mortgage payment since 2017. I refinanced it twice to keep the rate down. I replaced the roof, the furnace, the plumbing under the sink when it. Mom waved a hand. You're so good with details. That's why this works. Works for who? For all of us, she said, as if I was being petty to ask. Emily arrived late, makeup fresh from a salon, hair curled like an ad. She hugged me and smelled like vanilla and Instagram. Don't be weird about this, okay? It's not about money. It's about love. Super convenient, I said. How love lands on the deed. She rolled her eyes. Tyler and I can't build if we're drowning in rent. Ava tried one more time. So, where would we live? Mom smiled. Oh, honey, you rent. You're used to it. My jaw clicked. I heard my own voice go flat, a work voice. I'm not agreeing to anything. You don't have to agree, Mom said softly, like she was being kind. We already decided. Father Paul said. I stood up. Father Paul doesn't pay my mortgage. That week, I worked nights. I watched the glow of the city from the driver's seat while the radio spit out the usual. Noise complaints, a domestic, a kid with a scraped knee who needed a sticker, and a calm voice. Somewhere around 3 a.m., the thought that used to comfort me, I'm keeping us afloat, stopped working. It snapped. I realized I'd spent my 30s playing both son and bank. The next text in Wedding HQ was a photo, a white card that said Home Sweet Home, tied with a velvet ribbon. Guess what we're gifting? Mom captioned it with glitter emojis. I typed, no. Mom called immediately. I let it ring out. She sent a voice note. Don't ruin this. Dad followed with, be a man. Provide. Emily added, we will invite you to visit whenever. Like offering me visiting hours. I said nothing. I opened my bank app and scrolled through 8 years. I looked at the orange overtime blocks on my timesheet app. I looked at the shelf in the garage where my son had lined up his toy cars in a straight, proud row and written garage in shaky marker on blue painter's tape. The problem wasn't that they were asking. It was that they decided and then told me not to be dramatic. Like I was a barrier, not a person. The night before the wedding, I drove by the church to drop off a set of hand warmers for the volunteers because the forecast said cold. It was muscle memory, taking care of people who wouldn't do the same for me. That's when I saw the gate list. 3 printouts, vendors, family, and a third sheet with a headline in thick black marker. Do not let them in. My name, Ava's name, and under it, 2 school photos of my kids. That's how I learned my mother's definition of family. By a sheet of printer paper fluttering in the wind. We didn't argue at the gate. I've seen enough fights in the wrong way. I put the diaper bag back on my shoulder, buckled the kids into their seats, and drove home through streets that know me by the hum of my cruiser on other nights. What now? Ava asked quietly, the way someone asks on a cliff edge. Now I stop pretending, I said. At home, I set up at the kitchen table. Laptop open. Coffee. Stack of paper. The house was too quiet for a Saturday. I could hear the fridge click. I opened the house folder. I made a new document. For the record, I attached the deed history, the refinance papers, the mortgage payoff letter, the Zelle receipts, the checks I wrote to the county when the escrow came up short. I added photos of the roofers on a gray October morning, me in a hoodie hauling shingles because the foreman was short a guy and I was there anyway. I added the text from Mom. We renamed the deed in 2019, remember? With my reply under it. No, you didn't. I blocked it. And the follow-up where she said, right, we postponed. I dropped in the photo of the gate sign with our faces underneath. Do not let them in. I typed a caption under it. My mother's handwriting. Then I wrote, not a rant. Facts. Dates. Dollar amounts. The transcript of the phone call where she'd said, we're gifting the house to your sister. Word for word as best as I could reconstruct. The group chat exchanges. The be a man text. The we decided message. The part where Emily said, we'll invite you to visit. At the bottom, I added one more line. I'm done. Ava read over my shoulder. You sure? Yes. I posted it to the family group chat first. No commentary. Just the file. Then I posted it to a private Facebook group for our extended relatives because I knew my mother would spin it by dinner and I was tired of playing catch up. I didn't tag anyone. I didn't accuse. I just let the numbers sit in the light. 20 minutes later, my phone sounded like a storm. Mom, take this down right now. Dad, You've humiliated your mother on your sister's wedding day. Emily, what is wrong with you? Aunt Teresa, I didn't know, Jack. Uncle Ray, this isn't right. Grandma, come by tomorrow, sweetheart. Then a call from an unknown number. Hello, this is Tyler, he said, voice full of beer and vowels. Dude, you made my wife cry on our wedding day. You put my kids' school photos on a do not admit list, I said evenly. That was your mom, he said immediately. Don't make this on me. Then take my name off the deed transfer packet, I said. Because this is on you if you sign it. What deed transfer? You didn't know? I asked. Silence. Then, quieter. We thought it was a gift. From me? I said. He hung up. I turned my phone to silent and sat with the second coffee going cold. It was 3:40 p.m. I pictured the church doors opening and my mother looking up for us like we were late to a show she expected us to applaud. At 4:03 p.m., a text from Dad. Your mother has fainted. At 4:05 p.m., a second text. Come fix this. At 4:07 p.m., I ignored both and took my kids to the park. I pushed them on the swings. I watched the wind lift my daughter's hair. I breathed. At 6:12 p.m., Mom called again. I picked up. I hope you're proud, she said. Her voice had that quiver I've heard from victims and suspects alike. The moment they realize the story in their head won't win the room. No, I said. I'm tired. You ruined her day. You ruined my life for 8 years, I said simply. I paid for this house. I raised my kids in it. You decided to give it away. You posted my children's faces on a sign to keep them out. I won't argue about what that means. You're dramatic, she said, more out of habit than conviction. I'm done, I repeated. What does that even mean? It means the bank of Jack is closed. Mom went nuclear first. She posted a long paragraph on Facebook about disrespect and private family matters. She wrote that I don't understand generosity and that we were only trying to help the next generation. She did not mention the mortgage, naturally. I didn't reply. I'd already said everything important. The post with receipts did the work. Comments showed up from cousins who'd borrowed tools from me, neighbors who'd seen me on the roof, an old teacher who remembered my mother boasting in the checkout line about her son's wonderful sense of duty when the cashier asked about my uniform. Dad tried the practical angle. Come by Monday, he texted. We'll sort out a transfer where you retain some rights. I wrote back. The only transfer is your stuff out of my garage by Friday. Ava watched me pack the cardboard boxes we'd saved from our last Amazon order. I labeled them with a Sharpie. Mark, Tools, Linda, Decor, Emily, Misk. I set them by the door. It felt like closing a case file that had spent years open on my desk, gathering dust and excuses. Emily called on Tuesday. Her voice was small. We didn't know about the sign, she said. That was Mom. You know how she is. She just wanted the day to be perfect. I said nothing. I'm not the bad guy, she added. Tyler and I thought the house was a gift. They told us you agreed. They lied, I said. But I didn't. She exhaled. So what happens now? Now, I said. I live in the house I paid for. You live in whatever you can afford. She sniffed. We can't afford much. Then you learn, I said. Like I did. The department found out because everything finds its way to the break room eventually. My partner, Diaz, slid me a glazed donut and said, You good? I will be, I said. You're the calmest angry person I've ever met. Practice, I said. We rolled to calls. Nothing heroic. A fender bender. A lost kid who wasn't really lost, just good at hide and seek. At a stoplight, Diaz said, You gonna lawyer up? Only if they try something. I had already emailed a property attorney for the record file. It's clean. 2 days later, Dad and Mom showed up unannounced. I saw them through the front window, Mom smoothing her blouse like that would press everything into shape. Dad knocked with the confidence of a man who'd never been told no by his own son. I opened the door and stepped onto the porch, leaving the door behind me half closed like a line. Mom started with tears. Jack, I can't sleep. My blood pressure is through the roof. Your grandmother is asking questions. Then answer her, I said. We already told people you misunderstood. I let that sit. That post, the documents. You humiliated me, she said, pointing like she could poke a hole in my chest. You used my children's faces to keep them out of church, I said. I'd call that humiliating. Dad tried a new tactic. Reason. We can't afford to move. Prices are insane. Give us time. You've had 8 years, I said. He stiffened. This is how you treat your elders? This is how I stop being treated like a wallet, I said. I handed him a printed calendar. You have 3 weekends. Pick 2. We'll help you load. Mom blinked. You're evicting us? I'm asking you to leave a house I paid for, I said. Eviction is a legal process. If you prefer, we can do that. They stared at me, waiting for the old version of me to appear. The son who would sigh, give in, say fine, one more month. He didn't show. Mom's eyes jumped past me toward the living room. The kids were drawing at the coffee table, tongues poking out of the corners of their mouths. There was a sign taped to the shelf, my daughter's handwriting, kids' library. Crayon bins, a stack of library books with plastic covers. You'd put your parents on the street, Mom said, pointing as if the sight of crayons made me weak. No, I said. I'll help you move into a place you can afford. I'll pay for the truck. I'll even set up your Wi-Fi. But you will not live here. She gasped like I'd slapped her. You're cruel. I'm finally kind, I said, to my wife and kids. They didn't pick a weekend. Of course they didn't. They left in a swirl of righteous indignation. Mom posted again. Dad texted me links to articles about family estrangement. Emily wrote a long message about the sanctity of marriage and how I'd ruined her big moment. I answered with 2 words, boundaries work. The next Saturday, Uncle Ray and Aunt Teresa showed up with a truck anyway. Pick a weekend, Ray said, grinning, or we'll pick it for you. He started boxing up Dad's garage museum, old fishing rods, a treadmill used twice. Aunt Teresa wrapped Mom's ceramic roosters in newspaper. I pulled down the Live Laugh Love sign and leaned it against a box with care I didn't feel. By late afternoon, Dad arrived. He stood in the doorway, jaw tight. Mom followed, mouth already opening to declare a disaster. Ray clapped him on the shoulder. We're moving you to a 2-bedroom near the park. It's clean. Linda, you'll live. You have no right, Mom snapped. You had no receipts, Aunt Teresa said, soft but sharp. Jack did. Mom pressed a hand to her chest. You're taking his side? I'm taking the side of math, Aunt Teresa said. They moved out in 2 Saturdays. I changed the locks on Sunday, not because I don't trust, but because I've learned who I'm dealing with. The house felt different immediately. Quieter. Bigger without the narrative of obligation hanging in the corners. I heard my son thump down the hall at dawn and not a lecture about noise. I made pancakes and no one commented on the brand of syrup. Ava sat on the stoop with coffee and we watched morning make the street look new. People will ask if it hurt. Of course it did. But it hurt like a splinter coming out. Sharp, then relief. Work was the same and not the same. The city still called. People still lied to me and then thanked me 5 minutes later. Diaz said, you look lighter. I said, I'm not carrying everyone anymore. 2 weeks after they moved, a card arrived. Emily. The envelope smelled like sugar. Inside, a photo of her in a white dress under twinkle lights. On the back, in looping script, we forgive you. I put the card in the drawer with the batteries and packing tape and closed it. I did not reply. That weekend, Ava and I painted the living room a color called Hushed Birch. We moved the couch away from the wall the way she wanted from the start, but my mother had insisted furniture belongs flush. We found a little handprint on the baseboard from when our daughter was 2. I left it there. At church the next month, Father Paul walked up after Mass. I heard there was difficulty, he said carefully. There was, I said. He adjusted his glasses. I may have been quoted in ways I didn't intend. It happens, I said. You're a good man, he said. Boundaries are not a sin. Didn't think they were, I said, and shook his hand. That night, I opened the last tab in my house spreadsheet. I renamed it, Us. I wrote 3 lines. Mortgage, $0. Emergency fund, building. Sanity, paid. Then I closed the laptop and went to sit on the floor with my kids while they built a city out of blocks that didn't collapse when someone else pushed too hard. I used to think strength meant carrying everything in silence. Maybe that's the cop in me. Keep it steady. Don't let your hands shake while you write the report. Now I think strength looks like saying no and meaning it. If you want the moral, here it is without glitter or a bow. The people who benefit from your lack of boundaries will call your boundaries cruelty. They'll use family, faith, and respect like duct tape to cover a hole they dug themselves. They'll call money love as long as it flows toward them. When it stops, they'll call it betrayal. I am not a wallet. I am not a stagehand for someone else's big day. I am a husband and a father first. I am a son who grew up. I am a brother who doesn't loan his spine to anyone. Mom still sends messages sometimes. Holidays. Grandkids miss grandparents. She skips the part where she printed their faces under a command. She skips the mortgage. She skips the math. I answer when I have the bandwidth. I keep it simple. You're welcome to visit with notice. Doors open for a healthy relationship. No more money. The last one seems to be the only sentence that matters. Emily and Tyler rented a small place across town. He complained about the landlord once on Facebook. I didn't engage. Maybe they'll learn the things I learned, just faster. Maybe they won't. That's not my job. A few relatives drifted back into my life after the receipts. They apologized without asterisks. Those are the ones who can come over for burgers and sit on the porch while the kids chase bubbles down the walkway. The others keep their distance unless they need something. The silence is its own answer. When we pass the church, my son points at the gate. That's where the picture was, right? He asks. Right, I say. Mean, he adds. Yeah, I say. Mean. We don't linger there. We drive home. The house that is ours in the simplest way. We live there. We pay for it. We clean it. We mark our kids' heights on the hallway trim. We argue about whose turn it is to take the trash out. We fix the leaky faucet. We host movie night. We sleep. Sometimes, after a long shift, I park out front and sit in the quiet car. I look at the porch light Ava leaves on and the crooked line of bikes leaning against the garage. I think about the years I spent confusing endurance for love. I think about my mother's voice, "Don't make this ugly." Like ugliness only counts when someone can see it. I think about the 4 hours it took her to realize the wedding was over when we went home. Then I go inside. If you're reading this and you're where I was, here's your line to practice. I'm done. And here's the one you say after they call you selfish, ungrateful, cruel. I'm done being used. Say it once. Say it twice. Say it until your hands stop shaking. It won't fix your family. It will fix your life. And when you finally sit in a quiet house you paid for, when your kid leaves a handprint on fresh paint and your wife laughs because the couch looks better away from the wall, you'll understand the thing I learned on a cold Saturday with a sign on a gate. Leaving is sometimes the only way to come home.